Hey, welcome back, guys. This is Golden Aesthetics and Artemis. Today is a very special episode. Today we're here with the legend himself, Frank Zane, three-time Mr. Olympia, Mr. Universe, Mr. World, Mr. America. I'm very excited and honored to be share this time with you, Zane. Thank you so much for letting us film this. It's a huge honor, and I'm sure the guys up there will definitely enjoy some of your knowledge. I have a couple questions here that everybody was asking me, and majority of the people were interested. What age did you start bodybuilding?
Well, I was 14, so that I'm almost 73 now, so that's almost 60 years.
What was the major reason for you to start to get in sport?
I just felt the need to do something individual rather than team sports so much. I mean, I tried team sports, but I really felt like I could do a better job if I did it myself, and I was right. Bodybuilding was perfect for me.
So who introduced you to bodybuilding? How did you?
I saw pictures in the magazines.
That's
I
how
used
everybody
to go to
else.
Backdate magazine shop and get these magazines. I saw these guys, then I started reading about it, studying it, trying the routines, bought a set of dumbbells, worked out.
Now, why did you decide to compete? What age?
17.
17, so it's been 3 years after you started.
Uh-huh.
How was your first contest?
First contest was an open novice contest with 50 people in it, and I placed 5th, which was encouraging, especially because Bob Hoffman was there. You know, those days it was weightlifting all day, Olympic weightlifting, and that night was the physique contest.
Mm-hmm.
And Hoffman was backstage watching me pump up. And he came over to me and he said, "Young man, if I had a physique like yours, I'd walk around with my shirt off all the time." And right then I knew that I could be great. I mean, it's funny how you hear things like that, and it's what you needed to hear to keep going. And
Yeah, I get those sometimes too.
a couple months later, I placed 3rd in Teenage Mr. America, won my first trophy.
How about, what do you think about bodybuilding today? How do you see it today, and what the difference is between golden era bodybuilding and the bodybuilding that is on stage right now?
Well, bodybuilding, I like the process of creating something new, of developing your body, changing it, having it look the way you would really like it to look. And maybe some of these people today in bodybuilding really want to look like that because that's the look they're portraying. Personally, not to my taste. I don't like it. I wouldn't want to be like that. Most people I talk to that come to me as clients don't either. That's why they come to see me. In a way, the bodybuilders of today have provided a marked contrast to my physique. It's very different. It's just overdone. It's mass-produced. It's like assembly line. Just crank out those machines. They all look the same. They're done quick. They're done quick. They're done in a couple years.
Yes.
That's the thing about bodybuilding with me is I've done it my whole life. I didn't win the Olympia until I think it was my 10th try, my 7th try, something like that. Nothing was right away. Everything took me a long time, but I stuck with it. So I developed perseverance. It wasn't anything that happened overnight. You know, it's not quick gratification. So I loved it, and I still do.
What do you think about aesthetics, and what defines aesthetic body? Because you're the definition. That's somebody. If somebody's talking about aesthetics, it means they're talking about Frank Zane. How do you see it in your own words? How did you create what you thought is going to be what you are right now?
Well, I had my idols that I wanted to look like Steve Reeves primarily, and then later on Larry Scott, and got to know them too. That's one thing I love about my career is I met everybody, and I trained with a lot of them too. So I have the experience of that. But aesthetics, I think, is basically, what is your aesthetic? You hear that referred to like in fashion shows a lot. What's your aesthetic? I mean, how do you like things to look? Mm-hmm. My aesthetic would be characterized as symmetry and proportion, not overly big, good lines to the body, postures of excellence in posing. And the way I developed it was by taking tons of photos over the years. I never relied on numbers. I was a mathematics teacher. I have affinity for numbers, but I don't rely on them because they're not reality. They're a measurement of reality. You go into contests, what's important? How you look. What do? They look at you. So I figured, why don't I just focus on that? This other stuff doesn't mean anything. How much you weigh, what you measure, it's what it looks like. And so I got many photos, especially when I was preparing for competition. And I saw what needed to be done and what was there. So when I got on stage, I knew what I looked like, and I could I could push that to the audience. I could project that. The worst thing is going into a show and not knowing what you look like. You'll find out at the show.
Yeah, because
Good to know
majority
beforehand.
of the people right now are, my biceps is 20, my this is that, but nobody really measures your
Doesn't mean
biceps
anything.
when you go on stage. Nobody cares about. Everybody looks and they just look at the symmetry and how pleasing it is. Nobody really cares about huge biceps.
It's about developing your body to the extent that it displays well, that it can create an illusion. That's the thing, is you got to create an illusion on stage of looking phenomenal. I mean, you do, but under different lighting, of course, you can look different.
Yes.
You know, you don't win the show. Whoever is the biggest walking into the contest with their street clothes on doesn't win it. It's who wins it under the lights. It's under the lights that matter.
Why do you think that the training methods of today are so much more, I mean, advertised a lot more, and they say they're gonna make you grow better and more, and then you shouldn't be looking at the, training of the golden era bodybuilders because they were overtraining, they were doing too much, and nowadays it's that, people are talking about more weights, that you gotta train heavier. So what's your take on that?
There's a way to do pretty much everything with weights and bodybuilding and diet and everything. It's what you want to do. It's what appeals to you. So I just go by that. This is what appeals to me. And plus, I have to be honest with you, I couldn't get that big. I mean, I realized that wasn't my forte. I don't know when how big it was going to be something bigger than me. Very small bone structure. It's good bone structure for bodybuilding. Small hips, wide shoulders, small joints. But muscles look bigger. When you have a 6.5-inch wrist, your arms are going to look bigger than somebody with an 8-inch wrist, no matter how big they are. So I went by that and just stuck with it. Just kept at it.
What kind of nutrition, were you staying on something the same over the years, or something that you found worked for you and you just stayed on it, or
Yes.
you changed
I found
nutrition?
what worked and stayed with it. And it was basically the high protein, low carb, not a real low carbohydrate diet, but not as much carbs as protein, and a moderate fat to low fat diet. And so I'd always get around about a gram of protein per pound of body weight. This is what I do now. I mean, then I got a little more protein than that when I was competing. Half that amount in fat and carbs. So if I'm getting 200 grams of protein, it'd be 100 grams of carbs. Enough for energy purposes, but enough to also to introduce ketosis maybe after a couple of days and then pull myself out of it. So that's basically what I would do. Keep the carbs low, the protein high for a few days in a row, get into ketosis and pull back out, restore glycogen.
How did your cardio look like throughout the year? Let's say you were in the off season. Were you still sticking to the cardio? Because a lot of guys, when they're off season, they do zero cardio.
I always do
Absolutely.
some. Now it's informal now. I walk a couple times a week with my dog, like a mile and a half, 3 times a week. I ride a stationary bike. I do rowing machine and a little treadmill. But in the off season, it's probably, well, even with the dog walking, it's about an hour and a half a week of aerobics, 2 hours. That's about all I usually do. If I want to get in really shape, I found that 3 hours a week of intense aerobics does it for me.
So when you go on, let's say into competition preparations and contest
Yes.
shape, you go a lot more in the cardio?
Not a lot more, just the right amount.
Okay.
The best shape I was ever in, I think, was for the '79 Olympia. And preparing for that, I was in isolation in Palm Springs for the last month, and I ran a mile and a half every night when the temperature dropped below 100 on the track. And my legs got incredible doing that, just running, 8-minute mile. I never had to do a lot of cardio. I was always on the lean side. I was never fat.
Did you, when you start training, did you start with more powerlifting base, heavier weights,
For a while.
and then transition into more of isolations? Because
Yes.
there's a lot of speculations on that right now. It's saying, people say bodybuilding is an isolation sport and you can actually, grow your physique without going too heavy, or you would recommend for people that just come into the sport, to start a little heavier on a power.
It all depends. See, when you're talking about the truth, if you want to grow mass, you have to train with heavy weights. The body muscles actually have to interpret it as being heavier. You could do a little bit more of that with a sensible weight by slowing down the negatives, for example, doing things like drop sets. You get a lot out of that. But the thing is with the heavy weights, If you're training heavy and going heavier and heavier and heavier, basically, and you're trying to gain weight and get bigger, what gets bigger is muscles in the central part of the body, the central muscles, thighs, butt, waist, pecs, traps. These muscles don't give you a symmetrical look. They give you a chunky, blocky look. Larry Scott told me this. This is really astute when he told me. He says, if you really want to get what people call symmetry in bodybuilding, work the peripheral muscles harder and get them to grow. Your forearms, your calves, your deltoids, your lat spread, small waist. Look at the silhouette. The silhouette. That's what you have to look at, is the silhouette. Did they do that in shows? No. Why not? That shows overall balance.
Yes.
Look at your outline. That's what
Yes.
people see.
Yes.
Unconsciously, they perceive that the outline, something like that. That looks scary.
It does. I totally agree with you. A lot of people asking about vacuums. It's something that you don't see anymore on bodybuilding stage. You see more of a gut and big stomachs.
It's hard to do it at 40
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That's full of food.
How was that back in the day? How people were eating, or how was the vacuum training? Was something involved in every single day exercising? What kind of?
Basically, there's a need for that when you're posing for your front shots, because let's say you do front double bicep. You could either do it with a vacuum or with abs, because if you don't, you're going to have nothing happening in the center part of your body. You have to show detail everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Abs do that. I mean, look at the great ab shots you have with the double bicep.
Mm-hmm.
Vacuum does that too. Like Arnold never did, he didn't have much in the way of abs. I mean, he
No.
did some, but he would do his front double bicep with a vacuum. He had a great vacuum.
Yeah.
Mike Bench had a good vacuum too.
Yes, absolutely.
Bill Pearl had a good vacuum. They did dumbbell pullovers across the bench. Arnold didn't, but those guys did. I did. That's how I got it.
That's-
a lot of pullovers, lying over the bench.
And you're sucking your stomach while you're holding the dumbbell overhead.
Well, actually, that part of it came from practicing the pose, pretty much, pulling in the stomach. You got to be hungry. And I had a method that I found myself, I didn't say I'm going to do this, I just found myself doing it. As the contest got closer, what I found myself doing was staying hungry longer. Not eating every hour, every 2 hours, just staying hungry longer, and then I would vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
I also would play wind instruments too, like I'm a harmonica player. I would do that. You play better when you're hungry, you do. The worse you
Nice.
feel, the better you play. That's what the blues is all about. So I would practice it, as part of my posing routine. I put a lot of time in on posing.
Do you think practicing vacuums also help to keep your waistline smaller and
Yes.
tighter?
Yeah. Anytime you tense your abs, you're doing something for it in that manner. But I did a lot of ab work too.
You don't. So a lot of people say, "Oh, if you do a lot of ab work," because nowadays bodybuilders don't do much of ab work for some reason. But they're saying, "Oh, if you do too much abs and too much exercises in your core, your waist is gonna grow." What do you think of that?
Depends what you do. If you do sit-ups with a 50-pound plate, yeah, it's going to grow, especially the upper abs attached to the rib cage, and you'll have a protruding weight. But if you load up with 10,000 calories a day and squat real heavy, your waist is going to grow too. I mean, there's a lot of ways to make your waist grow. And that's one thing I didn't like about my physique, is when I got heavier, there was a year that everybody told me I need to get bigger, So in 1982 I did. I wanted to weigh 200 for the Olympia. And I did, and I lost. And I looked at the photos, I was too smooth. My waist was bigger. If I were 10 pounds less, I would look way better, way better.
You're
You
probably
have
one
these
of
things in your mind.
you're probably one of the lightest Mr. Olympia ever. You wanted what, 192 pounds?
Let's see, first year I think I was 187, 77, 185 in 88 and 78,
That's amazing.
and 191 when I won it the third time.
This guy's right now at 280, 260 pounds on stage, 240. Crazy.
It's all a matter of taste.
Yes.
And there's no
absolutely.
accounting for taste. So I can't say that's bad. I mean, that's what they like. And there's people that like that too. A handful of them. There's not many of them. Less and less as time goes on.
What do
it's
you
what they
think?
wanna do.
Where do you think it's gonna go?
I don't know. I'm waiting to see. I try to do my small part, but things are the way they are. I mean, there's powerful sources advocating things that I don't agree with. So I just hope that people, I'm going to be doing this for a while, teaching people here at my facility. I just hope that they're interested enough to come and see me if they really want to make some progress, because I can really help them.
So here, guys, you can find Frank Zane on his website. What's your website?
FrankZane.com.
FrankZane.com. And if you guys want an experience with the best of the best, the legend, he's right here. It's an awesome facility. He can definitely help you out. I would do that. I would learn better from the king than read some articles in muscle and fitness or articles in bodybuilding.com.
You're gonna do it.
You know, yeah, of course, I am down.
You're training to do it.
I am already in. I'm in. I have a questions about supplements, something that a lot of people are speculating about nowadays. There was not a lot of supplements back in your age, right, where the golden era was. And
There was, actually.
what kind of supplements you personally relied on when you were training?
When I came to California in 1969, everybody, I mean not everybody, but the people who knew, that the top people, were using Rio Blair's products. I don't know if you've heard of Rio Blair.
What is it?
Well, he had a milk and egg protein. It was the first one really get into amino acids, free-form amino acids. And it's way ahead of his time. I mean, we were taking glutamine in 1970, megadosing and taking, mega vitamin, not so much mega vitamin theory, but mega everything, a lot of amino acids, and I still rely on that. I've been taking free-form amino acids for the last 45 years, and I think it does a lot. Because everything is amino acids, neurotransmitters, hormones, muscle.
Because nowadays you walk into GNC and they offer you a whole spectrum of stuff that's going to make you grow and promise you in amazing gains, like there's names like Jack 3D or like a lot of pre-workout stuff that I think are really affecting the body and make your digestion slower and damages your metabolism, makes you bloat and affects your nervous system. And people rely on the pre-workouts a lot nowadays. They say, oh, I can't last without it. I can't do anything without it. Were there any type of pre-workouts while you were training?
Coffee.
That's the best thing. I do coffee and almonds.
A little bit. I always look at who's saying it. If the person is saying it to me as an example of what they're talking about, then maybe there's something to it. But if a person is talking to me right in the face and he has really bad breath, I'm not going to believe anything he says. That's sort of symbolic, but that's the point.
Yeah, I understand.
Physician, heal thyself. I learned as a teacher that what really matters is not what you say, it's who you are, what you do, your behavior and who you are. And I found out years later of students that I ran across, like 20 years after the fact, they said, because they learned a lot of math from me, but because I was Mr. Universe teaching high school. That's why. They looked up to that, because I was an example of what I taught.
What's your outtake on genetics and how does it really define the level of aesthetics you can reach, or aesthetics is something you can build within any genetic code or any build?
You can become more aesthetic if you just concentrate on certain things in your training. And I have a book, my latest book called Let's Grow. It's not about bulking up, it's about selective growth in body parts by your form in the exercise. Your form, the movement, everything, it's just a lot to it. You have to learn to isolate to get certain muscles to respond after a while. I mean, at first you might want to gain some weight and grow, especially if you have, you're thin here and here. That is useful at that time, but it's not what you do all the time thereafter. You change according to what you look like and what you want to look.
So you do believe that you can achieve
Yeah.
really eye-pleasing body within absolutely any build?
The level to which I don't know, but everybody can get more of that.
Absolutely. A lot of people will give up on themselves and say, oh, I don't have what it takes, I have wide bones, but I do think and believe that you can look better.
A lot of people did. Larry Scott didn't have a big tape. You still got to be the best.
Who's your favorite bodybuilder of all times besides yourself?
Steve Reeves.
Very natural. Very natural. So I think
I like all the guys of the past generation that have all passed away. Bill Pearl, the last one now, because they're the ones that founded the sport. They're the ones that started old school. I mean, they did. Those training methods we're still doing now, and they work. So we're not looking around for any kind of new stuff. I mean, I like machines and everything. I mean, you can see this gym. I have a lot of apparatus in here. I like that stuff, but there's a way to use it. So it's all about common sense and then getting feedback on the results of what you're doing. I think the feedback's very important, and that's where the photos come in.
What is would be the best source of protein after training? And what's the best thing to take after training?
I think whatever kind of protein you like. A lot of people use whey protein. I think that you can get too much. I know with me it doesn't work as well because I used it so much over the years. I was really brought up drinking milk, and there's a point in your life where you get intolerant to it. So I rely on protein from egg white. I have an egg white protein with glutamine. And then I also just started a new product calling it XYP, because it's a vegan protein made from peas, which it's very tasty. I use it for flavoring. I have someone to let you taste it.
Oh, well, definitely.
But that's what I use.
There's more, I've been reading a lot, and I've been doing a lot of it myself about red meat. And there's a lot of bodybuilders like Arnold. He's a big advocate of eating a lot of red meat. What was your on take on that?
I was too. I grew from eating red meat. I used to eat a lot of steak. Don't eat it anymore. You know, my goals now aren't to build big muscles so much as to last, and anything that makes me feel uncomfortable. Like the thing about red meat is it's got connective tissue, and it goes through you very slow, and it gets stuck in there.
Yes.
It's easy to get constipated eating a lot of red meat, so I don't need it. I basically rely on fish and turkey.
They have very light sources, and they go through your body very quickly, and you'd feel lighter.
They don't hang up.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And the last question will be your advice to people that just started lifting, or people that just come into bodybuilding and want to compete. What would be your ultimate advice to absolutely anybody trying to build a static body?
Well, that's the reason I wrote my books and published my literature, is that because I tell it like it is and how I've done it. What I write is what I've done and what I'm doing. So I'd say if you want to know more about that and learn more about what I did to be successful, get my literature. Otherwise, you're on your own. Find a good trainer. I mean, a lot of times I'm fortunate in my life that I ran into a lot of people along the way, and I learned a lot from all of them. Each one contributed. There's some things that I need to know.
Yeah, we all learn.
Too.
We all learn from your image.
Yeah.
You know, just like you said, the picture says a lot more than the numbers.
Sure.
So everybody, there is a lot of fans out there, so and everybody supports you, and everybody loves you, and you're a living legend, and you're the standard of aesthetics. Because when we talk about aesthetics, we're talking about Frank Zane.
Oh, thank you.
We can find you a picture absolutely in any bodybuilding profile, and this thing is gonna stay in the history. And I think you made history. And you're gonna, like, you were an example for me. All my life I was looking up to your image, and you changed the way I perceive bodybuilding, and I look at it as art, because I think that's your thing, because you look at your body and it's artistic. It looks like it's an artwork, it's a masterpiece.
Well, thank you.
So congratulations on that, and thank you very much for sharing your time, your experience.
My pleasure. It's a great happiness to be
Guys, check out frankzane.com. There's a lot of literature you can read. I'd rather you learn from the best. I'm actually going to do the same thing. So thank you so much, Frank. Much pleasure meeting you. A lot of honor, and I'm looking forward to sculpt a body like yours. I mean, in my own.
You're there already,
in my own version, because I think we can't look the same, but you can be the best for yourself within what you got. And I think this is like, can I be like Frank Zane? Or can I be like Arnold? You will never gonna look like that. You have your own potential, and you can look better because it's you.
I'm very impressed with the photos I've seen of you, and I want to ask you a whole bunch of stuff. So as soon as this is over, we're going to get into what's up for you.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in talking about that.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Frank. Thank you.